Good evening, Don't Unfriend Me Nation. My name is Matthew Spear. I'm the host of Don't Unfriend Me. Welcome to the show. Last night, it was a fun one. The show's being throttled. Facebook is not pushing it hard enough. Twitter's doing okay. But I talked about Joe Biden before anyone else was talking about it, that the air raid siren was most assuredly fake and that they notified Russia before his visit. And this was all a photo op. Why? Well, because with the 2024 election, the 5 major topics, and just 3 of them, economy, COVID, border, and then you overall look at the next biggest, it's going to be the state of the world and our place in it. And they see Joe Biden as a weak leader. So what do? Well, you take him over to Ukraine on President's Day. You go ahead and fake an air raid siren after warning Russia that if they even jump or got froggy, that we would literally bring the world down upon them. And of course, the media is just lapping this up. This is vomit-inducing. I must warn you. They're comparing him to Lincoln and Thomas Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton, and George Washington, and I'm having a hard time keeping my dinner down. Please go ahead and get yourself some Tums, some kaopectate, be in a nice, safe, calm place before you watch this video, because the next 5 or 10 minutes is probably going to upset you too. I'll be right back after this message from, let's hear from the judge.
Hi, Matthew. It's Judge Janine, and I wanted to congratulate you on the Don't Unfriend Me show at the Dumb Show. I was thinking about that whole thing the other day when I thought it was right after Donald Trump was elected that everybody on the left started unfriending anyone on the right. So I'm glad you're calling them out. You've got a great name for the show, and I hope that you're true to the values, conservative values, Republican values, and that you call those people out. I think it's great. And I know you've got 135,000 followers. I hope you get a lot more. And just keep the faith, keep fighting. I think we may get America back, but in the meantime, we've got a steep hill to climb. And you're one of the fighters, one of the patriots. So thank you for what you're doing.
You can find us at The Dumb Show across social media everywhere. Drop the B, of course, if you're on my podcast listening, or you could go to thedumbshow.com. You can pick up some cool shirts, some hats, some coffee, all that stuff, and stop by pfcflags.com. This beautiful flag behind me is made by Jason and Katie. They work out of their garage. They make amazing, beautiful flags, and you need to stop by and go see them. Please do that and say hello from me. Let's get into this. This video, once again, get your Dramamine ready. This was on with MSNBC, and I believe Joy Reid, one of my favorites, who's always so authentic and real about what's going on in the world today. She had a historian on, and I'm not going to out this guy because, listen, overall, he's fairly correct with at least the history, not necessarily the comparison. I'm going to go into it a little bit deeper. Let's watch it with no further ado.
Yeah, I think what Biden did today goes straight through 2 centuries of proud American history.
So what he's saying is that this whole thing in Ukraine with Zelensky, where he went to the war zone where they notified Russia ahead of time, hey, we're coming, you do anything, gloves are off. And there was an air raid siren we'll watch the video in a second, that was actually in the background. And Joe Biden and Zelensky and nobody moved. Secret Service doesn't come out. It was obviously a staged event. Well, now they're taking it not just to use the political points for this, but now they're laying it on thick that Joe Biden is Lincoln incarnate. Here's the rest of the video.
Just what you said earlier, Joy. Presidents, let's say that LBJ and Nixon used to go to Vietnam, but they'd appear on an American air base that was pretty well controlled.
Pretty well controlled, but still in the Vietnam War. Several bases fell in Vietnam. We understand the Tet Offensive, all the things that took place inside Vietnam. It wasn't necessarily the safest place to be, no matter what anyone says. Yes, it was an air base. It was predominantly removed from most of the conflict. But once again, it doesn't matter. It's a war zone, and that's an actual war. This is a proxy, unless we're saying that the United States is now at war with Russia. Is that what we're saying? I don't think so. But to go ahead and blow off LBJ, who was a sanctimonious windbag, and Richard Nixon, who happened to be one of the best presidents we've ever had, minus Watergate, which wouldn't even get a slap on the wrist today. It's not a fair comparison. I wonder if there's another president who we compared to. I went ahead and talked about this last night on February 26, 2019. Donald Trump went to the DMZ, the demilitarized zone in between North Korea and South Korea. That's the demarcation line after World War II. It is not a place of safety. There are mines all strewn across the area. There's sniper fire. They shoot people trying to escape several times a month, going from North Korea to South Korea. Now, is it a big deal? Yes, Donald Trump did it. Are North Korea and South Korea at a de facto state of war? No, but it was still a monumental and historic event and should be brought up. But because it's Donald Trump, they never will.
To find a day of this kind of presidential bravery in a war zone, you've got to go all the way back to 1864, July, when Abraham Lincoln, as president, went to see Confederate soldiers who were firing on Washington, D.C., on the brink of taking it over. And literally, Lincoln got up and some guy behind him who didn't know it was the president said, "Get down, you fool." And Lincoln turned around, and I wouldn't have liked to be that guy seeing the president's face of disdain, asking who the guy was.
Listen, history is important to me, and I've heard the story. But I immediately knew not all the details, and I didn't know the names of the person involved, but I knew he was a chief justice at one point. I knew he was an aide-de-camp to Lincoln. This is what happens when you grow up with parents who really care about history and have a library the size bigger than the house itself or the garage. But the story isn't necessarily 100% accurate, so let's go into it. It wasn't the White House. It was Fort Stevens, and Confederates closed on that tiny little fort. But the person who he's talking about is future Chief Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes, then the president's aide-de-camp. Anybody who knows what an aide-de-camp is, it's essentially an assistant. Lincoln knew exactly who he was, and Holmes knew Lincoln personally since he was with him like a modern-day bodyman that the president has today, attached at the hip or his shadow, so to speak. Now, I've been getting a lot of hate messages, and it's been coming my way because people think I'm a harsh critic of this stunt, that I don't support the efforts in Ukraine. And honestly, this isn't a singular issue. I can be against Russia and Ukraine at the same time. I don't need to choose the lesser of two evils. We do that enough during election season. However, it is ironic that the following took place from the aforementioned aide-de-camp to President Lincoln. This was Abrams versus United States, this court case in 1919, and gentleman was a Chief Justice at this point, Chief Justice Holmes. In Abrams versus United States, Holmes was in dissent of a court decision. The Wilson administration was vigorously prosecuting and persecuting those suspected of sympathies with the Russian Revolution, as well as opponents of the war against Germany. The defendants in the case were socialists and anarchists, and that's where our similarities completely end. But it was also recent immigrants from Russia who opposed the apparent efforts of the United States to intervene in the Russian Civil War. They were charged with violating the Sedition Act of 1918, which was an amendment to the Espionage Act of 1917. You may have heard a little bit about the Espionage Act most recently with confidential files in people's garages and closets. That made criticisms of the government or the war effort a crime. Abrams and his co-defendants were charged with distributing leaflets, one in English and one in Yiddish. That called for a general strike to protest the U.S. intervention in Russia. A majority of the court voted to uphold the convictions and sentences of 10 and 20 years to be followed by deportation, while Holmes was the only dissenting voice. That aide-de-camp to Lincoln said that the majority claimed to be following the precedents already set in Schneck and other cases which Holmes had written for the court. But Holmes insisted that the defendant's leaflets neither threatened to cause any harm nor showed a specific intent to hinder the war effort. Isn't that interesting? I wonder if my comments are hindering the war effort because I happen to disagree with the stunt that was done and also haven't taken a side like a lot of people because we don't care. We've got enough problems in the United States. Just keep them out of Poland and we'll call it good. Now, it's apropos, I guess, or fortuitous in nature that CNN and MSNBC and every other news station are calling Biden the second coming of Lincoln. Yet Lincoln didn't need to stage his celebrity or courage. Lincoln didn't have to lie in an effort to fake heroism like Joe Biden did here. The truth is, Biden is not Lincoln, for the very fact that Lincoln would not have been salivating or gallivanting around France during the hardened times of the Civil War, securing European influence and dollars. No, I imagine if something of the magnitude of Ohio happened on Lincoln's watch, he would have probably moved the day somewhere other than President's Day, since they were planning this little visit for over 3 months. I wonder how long they planned flipping the air raid siren after talking to Russia and telling them to stand down. But alas, this is why the day is often recognized with Lincoln and Washington, and was exclusively to the both of them at one point. No, we have another day for Joe Biden, and that's April Fool's Day.
Mr. President.
Oh, Jesus, don't you ever sneak up on me like that again. What is it, Bob?
If Edwards gets wind of this, he'll use it against you in the campaign. He'll try to prove that you're incompetent.
I can prove that as well as he can.
Mr. President.
Nobody told Joe Biden to get down or get into a limo or get into a bunker. Nobody yelled at him and called him a fool and said, "Get down, you fool." It makes you wonder, did anyone really care, or did they know that there wasn't a threat to begin with? Don't forget to duck, Mr. President. Your safety is paramount to America. Folks, thanks for watching the show tonight. I appreciate it. You can follow us at The Dumb Show across all social media, or you can go to thedumbshow.com and also stop by and say hello. Thanks for watching. My name is Matthew Spear. I'll be on live tonight, 8:30, I think, more than likely. Usually Tuesday nights we're not. We're usually there Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but I might jump on tonight. And remember, our recorded show comes out Monday through Friday, usually around 7, 8 o'clock at night. God bless. Stop by the show. Buy yourself some shirts and hats and coffee for your loved ones. 10% off if you use DUM10, DUM10. Folks, once again, I will see you tonight, or I'll see you on the recorded show tomorrow. I'll go out like I always do with the Veteran Crisis Hotline. God bless, and thanks for watching.
I'm David Boreanaz with the Cast of SEAL team, and we have an important message for returning vets.
We want you to know if you're struggling to cope, there's help, and it's just a phone call away.
The Veterans Crisis Line is staffed with experienced professionals who know your struggles.
There's no greater sacrifice in service to our country. We're able to enjoy our freedoms because of it.
Your service is important. You are important.
For vets and their families, the Veterans Crisis Line is here to help 24 hours a day. Please call